Laura Purcell, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you.
Can I just say to the listeners do not know, Laura and I have been through a lot to get here today, to get to this moment.
There have been some technical difficulties.
Lots of technical difficulties, but we made it and we're here. So Laura, right, my first question, I always feel like I have to apologise when I was doing my online research about you. I always feel like it sounds like stalking, and it's not stalking. But on your website it says, well, not one of the quotes I think that someone gave to you was "Queen of the Superior Bone Chiller." So I was thinking, when you've been, I know it's good, isn't it? But when you've been on a writing journey, I don't know how long it's been, but for a long writing journey, how does it feel when someone bestows that title upon you?
It's amazing. It's really lovely. And I think the weird thing about being a writer as well is that you have to keep changing your identity. You know, when I first started off writing, I was writing sort of straight historical fiction. So, you know, my aim was to be more like, you know, a Philippa Gregory kind of person. And then I found I had a sort of, you know, talent for the gothic and for scary things. So to actually discover that in me through the writing and find people really responded to that side of my writing was great. I was like, wow, I found I've got a talent here. But, you know, with times as they are, historical gothic and horror are kind of not quite as popular at the moment. So I'm kind of
having really?
Yeah, well, it's tough. It's tough in the market at the moment. I mean, I think there's always an appetite for horror still, straight horror. The kind of spooky stuff I write is not really being picked up by publishers that much. Everybody wants fantasy or romance or crime. So I might have to do a bit more reinvention again. It's always a journey.
You know, it's really interesting because I think definitely around London Book Fair, which is I think it's around March, especially around that time, and then you're seeing a lot of what are agents and what are publishers looking for, and there was a lot of horror, like horror's what they're looking for, and that is the thing. So it's really interesting. I know you're shaking your head. No.
If someone wants to email my agent, that would be great. Someone out there who wants some horror. Yeah, I'm always kind of having to tone back my my writing for sort of like the mainstream, because I don't write for like a horror press. I've always sort of been told I'm a bit too dark, so I'm always having to try and balance that out of my writing.
I don't even know why I'm surprised. You know why I'm surprised? I'll tell you. It's because when I think about myself growing up, like I would say Stephen King I read him far too early.
Exactly.
Like, I think we all did. Like I think I read Pet Sematary or Cujo when I was 12. And when you think,
oh, Nadine, you're my friend. I love this.
I love
I'm so
it.
glad you said that, because this is the thing. My nephew is 13, and you know, people are sort of talking about book recommendations for him and saying, oh, that's probably a bit too advanced. And I'm like, I was reading Carrie.
This is the thing. I did an event in Bradford a couple of months ago, and I was in the bookshop, and obviously my books are there, and there was a girl with her mum. She was young. The girl was young, and she had her book she was 10. She had my book in her hand.
Wow.
I know, the Jigsaw Man. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if you should have my book in your hand at 10. And her mum said, oh, she really, really loves reading crime. And on one hand, I'm like, she's 10 and she loves reading. That's amazing. But on the other hand I write crime fiction, and my crime fiction is quite dark. But then I had to think about myself and what I was reading. And I thought, well, I turned out okay.
Exactly.
I signed it for her. I took a picture.
You and I, we're relatively normal. So what harm can be done?
But it's the thing. So I said, when I was thinking about myself, so being 12, reading Stephen King, and then I remember Interview of a Vampire, the film came out, and I started reading Anne Rice, and then it's come back again because you got the Interview of the Vampire series, and you got Mayfair. Is it Mayfair Witches?
Mayfair
You've got
Witches,
Discovery,
yeah.
Mayfair Witches. You got all of these like adaptations of these books out there. So that's why I'm struggling.
Yes, I too am struggling to compute it as well, but
yeah,
as it is at the moment, selling historical gothic books is a bit tricky. But these things, they always come around again. When I first started my writing journey, I was told that historical fiction was having a moment, that it had previously gone out of favour and then it was having a moment. And I've noticed that cycle with all kinds of books. They come in and out. It's just up and down. And that's the thing about the writing career. It's not linear. It would be great if you have one book and each subsequent book built on that success. But unfortunately, that's not how the graph goes when you're a writer. It's all up and down, wiggly.
Yeah, I was, when we was on our break, because we started to record and then we took a break and then we came back. But, and I was on Instagram and I saw someone's book being released and they write in the psychological, well, I say they were writing in the psychological thriller genre. And then I saw their new books being released and they've changed publishers. And now they're leaning more towards a traditional, I would say, procedural thriller. And I wouldn't have thought that there would be a need to reinvent yourself. No. And it might seem like a slight, you might think, well, is there much difference? I'm like, but it's a big deviation if you're writing psychological thrillers, then you're now moving to procedurals. There is a big difference.
It's a lot to sort of research and write. And, I think in a way it's good because it keeps you on your toes. And I always believe a real author can write many genres, rather than the same one over and over again. It keeps you learning. But I think there is that thing when you're a writer, you can't just rest on your laurels. It's lovely to build a reputation for one thing, but then if that goes out of favour, you still need to eat. So you kind of need to build a reputation in another avenue as well.
But I think once you accept that you need to eat, it becomes a lot easier.
It really does.
Because I think there can be a temptation to, not even a temptation, like this need to hold on to your original intention. Like, this is what I wanted to do and this is what I wanted to write, and I've written this particular genre for so long and I'm never going to do anything else. But reality is you need to pay bills.
Exactly.
You need to eat
That's
food.
Exactly it.
Yeah, and you'd like to have a nice holiday once in a while.
Imagine.
Just imagine. So Laura, how would you describe your writing journey?
Yeah, it's been a long time. So I started writing when I was a teenager. Again, this Stephen King era, but although I was reading Stephen King, I wasn't writing scary things. I was writing to amuse myself, and I was writing Regency romances because that's what I liked. I liked Jane Austen, and I wanted to explore that world more. And Jane Austen only had 6 novels that I could read, so I tried to play around in that era. And it wasn't really stuff I tried to do anything with. It was just little stories for me, for my friends, just a bit of fun. And then as I got, older and into my 20s, like I said, real passion for Philippa Gregory. And I thought, can I use my my love of the Regency, Georgian era, and my love of these sort of royal court books? Can I combine those together? So I started writing about the Hanoverian monarchs. I started writing fictional stories based on fact, if that makes sense. So I was writing their lives in a fictional retelling, and that was a real passion for me. I really loved it. I self-published a book that did quite well, and then it got me picked up by a small press. But obviously, a small press, will pay a small amount for your book, and sales weren't great, and what I really wanted to do was to write for a career. So I kind of took that launching board, and again tried to reinvent myself. I came up with an idea for a spooky novel, which ended up being The Silent Companions. I changed agent, I changed publisher, and that took off. So since The Silent Companions, I've been writing full time, fingers crossed. And I've been doing short stories. I've been doing mainly historical gothic, but I'm recently branching out into some YA as well, kind of dark fantasy, still with that gothic feel, but there's a bit more fantasy in it.
I've got 2 questions. And hopefully I remember the second one once we've answered the first one. But going back to the self-publishing, because I self-published my very first book
called
The Sisters. Yeah. And what did I always say? You quickly discover what it is that you're good at
Mm.
in terms of the whole self-publishing experience. Like I know I'm I can write. I know I'm a good writer. What else? That's it. Because I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at publicity. All of those, but I'm good at making the contacts. So I'm
Yeah.
good at that. Like I can find the editor, I can find the proofreader, I
I was
can
going to say you're
find
a lovely, personable person. I would imagine
you.
you'd be,
Yeah,
promoting
I can do
fine.
that. But the actual marketing side of it, it
Mm.
wasn't that I don't think I couldn't do it. It's just I didn't have the patience to do
It's so
that.
time consuming. It's so
Mm.
time consuming. And the reason I opted for self-publishing, but this was in 2012, so like the landscape of self-publishing I think is
It's around the
hugely
same
different
time with me.
oh wow, we've got so much in common. This is
I know.
lovely. Yeah, the landscape must have changed so much because it was relatively, I say it was relatively easy to do. I had
Yeah.
the help of my husband who designed a cover for me and helped me typeset it for Kindle and stuff like that. And actually we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun choosing images for the cover,
Mm.
putting little chapter flourishes in. I really enjoyed doing that. But what I was able to do at the time was write a blog. Blogs were really big then. That was kind
Yeah.
of the thing you did for marketing. So I had a history blog about, the real people these books were based on that got some traction. And then, I was promoting on social media, linking to the blog, linking to the book. And that did quite well. And back then, I'd kind of been told that my writing was good, that they liked the book, but they didn't think there was a big enough market for it. So that was why I went down the self-publishing route, because I thought, okay, well, I want to tell this story, and I've been told that it's not bad. If someone had come back to me and said, your writing isn't good enough, your storytelling isn't at the stage it needs to be, then I wouldn't have put it out there. But I think because what I was hearing was that it's good enough to be published, but it's just not going to make us enough money. That's why I originally went into the self-publishing, and I think it is a valid route. And I think if you're in that position where you've got stories you want to tell, and you don't need to earn a living from it, and you don't need to, you don't have expectations of getting your book into Waterstones and Barnes and Noble and stuff, then I still think that's a great route. But what's brilliant about having publishers is, like you say, they get me reviews in magazines, they get me stocked in places. I've got a Waterstone special edition coming out. It's those kind of things, the positioning and the marketing that the publishers do so well. And it's lovely to have someone designing your cover for you.
Oh my God. Because I think around that time, it's been when we both self-published. So around that 2013,
Yeah.
I think my one came out. I think it was 2015. So it's around that time.
Mm.
And I said self-publishing seemed to have reached its kind of, I don't necessarily might have reached its peak, in the sense of, like, you could clearly see the ones who had put lots of work and time into it, found the cover artist, found an editor, all of these things. And then there was a clear difference between the ones who, I didn't laugh, like the ones who hadn't, like you really could tell. You could
some
just
people
scroll on
had just
Amazon.
uploaded a Word document, hadn't they? And that was it.
Yeah. Word document, and the cover was probably done on clip art.
Clip art. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, there really was that clear difference. And I think I did the same as you. I hired an editor. I got was it Shutterstock or photos, and my husband has worked in design, so I was lucky enough to have a free designer there. But you can really put the pride in. But I think that has kind of spoiled me in a way, doing that self-publishing, because now I look at the way things are published and I'm like, are we angling this right? Are we getting this in the right market? I kind of want to take over, I think.
It's like a good internship to have, I think, if you're going to be self-published. I mean, not self, but if you're going to be traditionally published, if that's like your ultimate goal. It's a good internship to say, like, what is that you don't like as well, and how you want things to look, and you can kind of tell when someone's cutting corners.
Yes, yeah, you really can. Yeah, it's a good. You're right. It's a good practice run, definitely.
Would you do it again? I don't think I'd want to do it again.
See, yeah, now in today's market, I'm not sure so much because I think it's got a lot more complex.
But you can't really
A lot
tell. I
more
think this is what I'm
crowded.
finding.
Yeah. I don't know enough about it. I have had some people, approach me, friends, and say, "Oh, you self-published. What do I do?" And I'm like, actually, I've got no idea now. It's so different over 10 years ago. But I think I'd consider it. I think if I had a story I really wanted to tell, and just no publishers were biting, I think I'd consider doing that. But yeah, it would be very time consuming.
I think that's when you look at the things that we have to do, like we was just talking before we started recording, like I'm going through my proof, you're doing editing, we're talking about starting new books and then having to promote your new book because your new book, House of Splinters, is going to be coming out. Exactly. So doing all of these things and balancing all those things and then having to run it is a business. Not that publishing is not a business, but when you're traditionally published, you're a cog in this publishing.
That's right.
Whereas if you're self-publishing, you are everything.
Yes, and I imagine as well, if you self-publish now, you probably need to be on TikTok, which I am not, and I do not plan to be. It's not my forte. No offense to TikTok. I think it sounds great. It's just not. It's not where I belong.
No, I'm always impressed and I'm in awe, especially authors. I'm not talking about the book talkers. I'm talking about the authors who are on there and do it well. Yes. I don't because I'm like, it takes time and an understanding of how TikTok works in order to do it well. Whereas I'm just like, I make a video and I'm like, oh God, okay, I'll put it. It's already on Instagram. I'll just share it.
Yeah, just upload it now. Yeah,
I'll just upload it on TikTok. That's as much for.
Again, we are the equivalent of uploading a Word document with our videos. We're like, it shows the quality where people put the time and the effort in, and I think that's great. Hats off to them. I'm not going to start it.
No, not at all. But this is the second question. I'm glad it stuck in my head. So, when publishers and sometimes agents are saying to you, write well, which is a compliment. It's like, oh God, I can write well. I can tell a story. But it's a different sort of rejection when they're saying, you write well, but this story is not for us. Because it's not even like a personal one where you just can't write. Like, we're not even interested. Because they're taking the time to compliment you on your writing. But how do you manage that? Because I don't think we talk about that kind of rejection.
We don't, enough. And it is the trickiest in a way, because I think, obviously we talked about the fact of needing to eat, and there is that part of being a writer where you are a worker, you just aren't doing a job. But, there's also part of being a writer where you're an artist, and you want to create something. And it's very difficult if you want to create something specific and you're being told you have talent, but nobody wants that thing. It's like someone who's making, amazing, beautiful things that are outdated. It's a difficult struggle, and I think it leads to a lot of soul searching and sort of saying, well, look, do I sell out, as so to speak, and write something more commercial, or do I stick with what I'm doing? And I think the balance of being a writer is to find a project that you can, make some money off of, but also maybe have a secret project for yourself, and even if it doesn't see the light of day, you can nurture that side of your creativity. Because I think if you don't let it out, you can get very resentful, and that will show in your writing. If you're just writing things that you don't actually really want to write, that's going to come across. So I think if you've got another sort of passion project on the side, that's a good thing to have. But yeah, that is a hard kind of rejection, and it's a hard thing to improve on, because if it's your craft, if it's your voice, if it's your characterization they're questioning, you think, well, I can find some books on this, I can study. If they say your ideas are wrong, it's like, well, how do I get new ideas? How do you do that?
It's and I was thinking it's the equivalent of, it's not me, it's not you, it's me. That's what they say. It's not you, it's definitely me, and that's not a good enough answer.
No, it's really hard. It's a really hard thing to do, and I think you do just have to start looking at what is actually selling. But then you can't chase trends, because by the time you've written the book and got it accepted, that trend will be over. I think it's finding a halfway house. So, for example, like with the Silent Companions, darker fiction was kind of more in when that came out. And I managed to find a way, to still write historical fiction, but also write something that was going to appeal more to the psychological thriller audience that were out there at the time. I was able to find something that sort of meshed the two. So although I wasn't writing the passion project that was the Georgian Queens, I was writing something that was historical, and then with that thriller aspect. So we met halfway, I guess, and that's where I found my success.
Did when you said earlier you've been writing basically the Regency romances, and then obviously you've then moved on to, I say, to the gothic historical fiction and this horror genre that you're now in. When Bridgerton, I don't know why I'm laughing, but when Bridgerton.
No. I wrote a book on Queen Charlotte that came out in 2014, and nobody wanted it. And then when Queen Charlotte,
God,
Netflix came out, everybody's buying Julia Quinn's book on Queen Charlotte. And there's although it hurt, I was very smug, because I was like, well, look, there's the audience for it. You all said there was no audience. They're right there. But
what do you do in those moments? Do you go back? Did you ever think like going back and, okay, I'm going to write more Regency romance, or I'm going to push the Regency romance books I wrote before? Because I think it would be, you said it can be I'm a bit smug, like I did this before. But then it can also be like, really, are you not taking the mick? Like I wrote these books, and now Netflix is a whole Bridgerton, they've even got Bridgerton makeup.
To be honest, that's been my whole experience of the industry in general. Like, you flog a dead horse, and then you finally give up, and then someone succeeds with it, and you're like, wow, sucks for me.
This is the thing which it goes back to, is like you can't predict trends. And no. I think not the worst thing, probably too strong a word, but it's not advisable to write to trends, because you just don't know what is going to become a trend.
Absolutely not. And I think it's really difficult for agents as well, and publishers signing you up, because they don't know what's going to happen. They just have to sign up a book that they really love, I think, because I did have one person come back to me on the Silent Companions that said, we love this. I love this kind of book, but it's not going to sell enough to warrant you ever writing a second book. And, here I am on doing, that was my best-selling book. Here I am writing a prequel to it. Obviously they were wrong, but given the state of the market at the time, I don't really blame them for that response, because it was a rational enough response given what was selling at the time. We're all just pretending we know what we're doing out here.
No, we don't. Because I remember when I wrote The Jigsaw Man, even though I was doing it was basically started off as an assignment on my course. But I do remember thinking there are no serial killer thrillers anymore. Like they just weren't. It was because I think it was like the height of the domestic psychological thrillers. So The Girl on the Trains and Gone Girl, it was at that height. So I thought this, and I wasn't seeing the serial killer thriller books.
No, you're like, oh God, no one's going to buy this now because it's not set in a house. Yeah.
Exactly. So there was a bit of that, no one's going to buy it. And then there was a bit of, well, no one's writing about serial killers. I'm going to write about a serial killer. And by the time I'd finished the book, sold the book, and when the book got published in 2021, there were serial killer thriller books all over the place. So you
don't know, do you?
No.
I think that's why we say so much of it is based on luck as well as talent, because it really is, whether you've managed to capture the zeitgeist and it hits at the right moment. It's really a matter of luck. So I think, by all means, look at the market, but you need to write something you're passionate about as well, and just keep everything crossed that it'll be your time and your turn. I mean, I didn't get Queen Charlotte, but it worked out for Julia Quinn, didn't it?
And who knows what's on the horizon? Who knows who could come knocking on your door? But God, I had a question for you, and it completely went out of my head.
What I was take a sip of water.
It will come to me. I'll ask this question instead whilst the other question comes back to me. Laura, when did you know you was a storyteller?
That's a really good question, actually. And I think it was probably about age 14, 15. I knew that I wanted to tell stories. It wasn't until a bit later that I actually realised I was good at it. And I think, some of that was due to the work I put in to be good at it. But I think when I was, originally submitting to agents and I was getting things rejecting, people were saying to me, I think you're a natural storyteller. You're telling these stories. And when I had those stories of like the Georgian women that I said that I wanted to share with others, I did realise that actually I can communicate what I love about these people and their lives to others, and I can try and make them feel their emotions. I can sort of tap into that, and that was in my early 20s that I kind of realised that. But yourself, being a writer, you never actually think you're any good, and
No.
there's always the book you wanted to write. I think that's the thing. You judge all your books not against what actually is produced; it's what was in your head and whether you've matched up to that or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, despite constantly receiving information to the contrary, I'm still in my head like, really need to improve as a writer, really need to work on my craft. That's always what's in my head, is that I need to improve and get better. But in a way, I think that's good because it keeps you learning, keeps you moving forward. But yeah, I think the more I'm doing of writing and the more I'm being out in public talking about writing is that I realise that I am a storyteller in the written word, that I don't, in the real world, I'm not as great at communicating. I find it hard to articulate things. I find it hard to participate in society. I want to tell stories. That's me.
But telling stories is how you participate in society, though. Because I always feel that whether you're writing, whatever genre you're writing in, it should reflect in some way, even if you're writing historical, because you can look back at what took place in the past and you can see how similar themes are taking place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's political. It's your way of contributing to the greater conversation. But I think I communicate most strongly in stories, and I think of the world in stories. It's a funny old thing, but things like the theatre and computer games, they all tell stories. So I think it must have been around then when I sort of realised my life was going to be in books, if that makes sense. And I started working in a bookshop as my first weekend job. That's where I met my husband.
Was it?
Yeah.
What bookshop were you working in?
Waterstones in Chelmsford, which there is still a Waterstones in Chelmsford, but the one that me and my husband worked at is no more now, sadly. It's gone.
Well, it's another thing you and I share. I started working in a bookshop when I was at uni, and I was there for years. I think I was there all through uni, so that would have been 3 years. I did my master's still there.
Wow.
Did my conversion course. I think I might have been there for like 6 years, maybe. Wow. I loved it, and it was Books Etc.
Yeah, Books Etc. I remember them. Yeah.
I never wore my badge though. I always got in trouble. I was never wearing my badge.
Well, you were saying about apprenticeships, and again, I think that is another great apprenticeship for being a writer or working in publishing at all. I think is being on the shop floor selling books. Seeing what's selling, talking to readers, understanding buying habits. I think it's a great way in. And I have this theory that everybody that works in publishing should work in a bookshop for at least a year. I think
it's a good like character study. Like all the people who'd come into the bookshops, and I'd have when I was working in Canary Wharf, when I started working there, Canary Wharf wasn't like the shopping centre bit of it. It wasn't what it was
just
now.
Offices, really.
Yeah, it was literally just offices, the newspapers, the banks, and then there was us, Boots, the tailors, I think Tesco Express, and a version of, I'm saying HMV, like an indie version of
that, right.
and that, and literally that was it. So I'd have my regular like customers coming on the Saturday morning. But one thing that always stuck out in my mind is the same things like you can't predict a trend, and you can't I'm saying you can't really force people to buy a book, because I remember when Harry Potter came out, no, like you
Yeah.
really can't. And what I remember, we weren't advertising it. Like there wasn't posters all over the place. There wasn't books, especially with the first book. There wasn't books in the windows at all.
No.
And I just remember there's a stream of parents coming in. Have you heard about Harry Potter? I've been hearing about this book, Harry Potter. Is this good? So it was like word of mouth. Eventually, I was like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah. You're
I should.
thinking, where has this come from? Like, is
Yeah,
there
and you
just some
couldn't see where it
person
came from.
desperately spreading it?
Yeah. So it really made you think about, again, it's like, well, you can't write the trend, because there was no child wizards going off to wizarding school trend.
No, no one could predict that. And
No.
I think it's really interesting looking at it, showing my age, but when I was a bookseller, it was when the Richard and Judy book club very first started.
Yeah.
And that was on television then, it wasn't just a W.H. Smith thing like it is now. And just the response to that was phenomenal. But it was very much trying to get the sales around that, sort of saying, well, look, if you liked that, you might like this book because it's very similar. If you enjoyed this Richard and Judy book club pick, try this. But people were very much like, well, no, Richard and Judy have not told me to read that one, so I'm not going to. They would just read what they had been told to read. And I was like, this is strange.
You know what, but it makes me think, because today's Wednesday when we record. So yesterday, the bookseller always releases like the charts. And I knew, and Dan Brown's book came out last
Dan
week.
Brown straight away.
Yeah. And I knew it was going to hit the top. It's like, of course it's going to hit the top 10. And then it came in, it like sold 77,000 copies.
Wow.
In the UK. I know. in the UK. But I'll let you say what you're going to say, then I'll say my part.
No, I was going to say, you finish off first and then I'll go.
Well, I was going to say, but I think that's an example of, because the reviews that then came out, they weren't like, this is the best thing ever that's ever been written. They're very much like, well, if you liked the first one, you're going to like him. He's not the best writer in the world, but you're going to enjoy the story. And I was just thinking to myself, the man does not care. He's just writing the story that he wants to tell. And there's a market for it, and people are going to buy the book. And it didn't have, I don't think there weren't any proofs around. There were no, when they do reviews like months before, there was no like marketing build up to it. It was like, here's the book, it's coming out in September, Bob's your uncle.
But that's the thing, they kind of didn't need to. And that's the thing. When I was in book selling, I was building towers of Dan Brown books. He was so popular when I was book selling. So popular. We had so much stock. We were building art out of it, basically, on the shop floor, and it would sell and go down. And obviously those readers that did all that are still out there. As much as you could sort of look at the chart today and be like, oh, I don't see a kind of Dan Brown type book getting to the top. The readers that bought it in bulk, they're still out there, and they still like it. So no market, I don't think, is ever truly dead. If it's ever had a success, the readers are still floating around somewhere. They don't want some romance. They want Dan Brown thriller, a popcorn kind of book. That's what I want to call it, a popcorn kind of book.
I remember, I don't know if we got onto Dan Brown. Obviously, I brought up Dan Brown, but I remember
memories.
It's books and memories. But I remember it was my first year as a qualified solicitor, and I always had a book on me. And one of the partners at the firm I worked for, his wife was an agent, and he saw my book. He saw me reading Dan Brown, because the same thing is everywhere, and you want to see why is it everywhere. And I enjoyed it. I was like, it's like Indiana Jones. This is how it felt to me, like Indiana. And I love Indiana Jones. And he pulled a face like, I can't believe you're reading that. And I'm like, but why?
Why not?
Fun.
It's fun. That's it. And look, there's a place for everything. Okay, there's a place for Michelin star rump steak, and there's a place for a McDonald's burger. They're
like
both
a nugget
products. Yeah. They're both the same products. One is exceptional quality, one is cheap and cheerful, but they each have their place. You want them at different times.
Yeah.
I don't think people should be snobby about what others are reading. If you're reading and you're enjoying it, that's brilliant.
I mean, I feel that. I don't think anyone should, because I've heard a lot of, I don't know why, it's been a lot, maybe I'm just more aware of it, more tuned to it. Been a lot of like commentary on, if you're reading this sort of book, then it's considered like it's less intelligent. So if you're reading crime, it's like low in the hierarchy, I think, of literature. Like they place like crime's like on the bottom, like with romance.
Wow.
And if you're taking 15 pages to describe an orange, then that is like highbrow literature. And I just think it's unfair, because the amount of work that writers.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that's it. I think the same amount of work goes into all of them, and you want different things for different times. You know, I love literary fiction as well, but I wouldn't want to read only literary fiction. Yeah, I think people just need to realise that there's nothing's inherently better. That you need books that make you think, and you need books that entertain you. And some of them do both, which is brilliant. But you know, they're all valid.
They are. Did the surprise of the Silent Companion, did the success of the Silent Companion, did it surprise you?
It did. It really did, because there wasn't sort of any indication to me that it was going to do like particularly well. You know, like we had a good launch. My publisher Raven Books were launching their imprint at the same time, so again, I didn't really know what to expect. You know, and the hardback did okay. It was doing sort of decent numbers, and I was like happy, but it didn't, you know, hit any charts or anything. So I wasn't like thinking I had a runaway success. But then when it appeared on the Radio 2 book club, and then it appeared on Zoe Ball book club, it suddenly took off. And again, you know, it wasn't like a mad success by anyone's standards. You know, I wasn't like this viral sensation, but it was just, you know, doing nicely, and people wanted to hear what I was writing next. And I was like, this is great. I was surprised, because it was my first attempt at a Gothic novel. And as I'd said, you know, I had people sort of saying, oh, this kind of book isn't really gonna sell loads. So yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise. But because of the writer's life that we were saying, you know, the time that it took off, and they wanted a lot of publicity from me, was kind of at the time when I was finishing off edits on my next novel, and it's just very stressful. You were like, I'm done with that book. Why do you keep asking me about it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's hard, because even I always say, like, you've written your book, it's gone off to your editor, you've done your edits, and then you have to start your next book. So you're writing your next book, and then you're having to stop because this other book, which you love, you care about. I'm not saying it's like an unwanted child, like you care about it, but it keeps coming back. It's like, I thought you left home. Why are you coming back with your washing? Like
I'm done.
That's how it feels.
That is a perfect analogy. It really is. And because like this had come, you know, I was prepared to talk about it a lot in hardback, but because the success came when it was in paperback, it did just feel like it had been so long.
Well, it is long when you think about when you started writing, when you sat down for that first time and wrote chapter 1, and then it's finally, you know, it goes through the editing, goes through the proof stage, then it's released on hardback, and then it's released in part. That's a long time.
You're right, because I had the idea in 2014, and I think 2014 I started writing it, and the main publicity build up for it, where people started noticing it, was 2018. So I had this 4 years. So
it's a long time
scrabbling for.
But that's what people don't understand. Like, if you're not a writer, not in the industry, that, especially when you're then doing panels and you're being asked questions about the book. Like, I've said it more than once. I've forgotten characters, and I've got, you know, some member of the audience standing up asking me questions about a character, and I'm like, I have no idea. In my head, I'm thinking, I have no idea who you're talking about. I can't remember them. And then, but eventually, it will click because it's so long.
I think what I find hardest about it is when people say, like, you know, you get asked a lot about your writing experience and your writing process, which is something that I really struggle with, because for me, it's a lot of mad mishmash. You know, I'm going through things, I'm multitasking, I'm not sitting there thinking I'm following a straight roadmap and what is my process. So when people sort of ask me to think back to the writing of this book, I'm sort of going over these hazy memories, being like, well, I was just trying to get it done, you know. I wasn't setting out with this huge artistic vision. I was like, this is a story, I've got to get it working. And that's
Well, there's
quite
a
hard.
deadline and someone
Yes, it's a
wants it
deadline.
now.
I mean, that's not to say, I don't ever have artistic intent. I do, but it's hard to pull it out through all that, all the life admin, really.
I think that's the reality of the writing life. Because I always, I've
Mm.
said it 100 times, people listen to this podcast know, is that before you become a writer, like traditionally
Yeah.
published or self-published, your whole view of the publishing industry, I always say it's through Hallmark TV movie rose-tinted glasses.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous. It's so artificial. And it's only when you're in it, you're like, no, this is not, like, you recognize it's a business and you see where you are in the business, but you see how there's so many different components to it. And I always think that as well, that your book 1 experience is completely different to your book 2 experience, and your book 2 experience is different to your book 5 experience. Yeah. No book, it's not the same.
No, even the writing of them. And like, perhaps there are certain genres where you can maybe get a formula in place and you can kind of do a formulaic writing, but I am not in one of those genres, so I've never had stuff that has been useful on one book being that useful on another book.
Well, I don't even think, because I write series, and I don't even think when I'm writing the next book in a series, it's not easy, because my challenge is that I don't want it to come across as being formulaic. I don't want it to come across as if I'm just doing a copy and paste from book 2. So I'm always looking for new ways to make it different. I
suppose you have the challenge of writing a complete story in that book whilst also moving the general series along as well. It's
exactly,
you've got 2 stories to be thinking about, the contained one and the overarching story.
And also 2 different audiences, 2 different readers. I've got to think about the reader who's been there from day 1, and they remember things that I don't remember. But then I've got to think about the reader.
Fresh. Sorry.
Exactly.
Let me catch you up.
Yeah. And then there's the reader who, they just discover me for the first time, and they might pick up a book out of sequence, so they're picking up book 4 instead of book 1. And you don't want to feel like, oh my God, there's all this stuff that they should know. So it's all these different things.
I would love a little section that we could have in the front of our books that say previously on, like like a TV series, and just a bullet points of things that you should remember.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Previously, in episode 9, series 1 of the Detective Henley season.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I remember the question I was going to ask you, what I was going to say, when you're talking about secret projects, like, I always say I have got secret projects, but I always think it's important to have them, to give yourself, I think, in order to give yourself a challenge, but also to write without the pressure of the demand.
Yes, I think that's, people talk about writing as kind of a muscle that you need to keep working. And I think that's a way to do it, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I have kind of like stage fright. Like, I go into, writing something that I know is going to be read. It's a story that's been commissioned by me or something, and I'm kind of watching how I speak, if that makes sense. I'm rewording everything, going, oh no, it doesn't sound right enough, and I can get stuck on that. Whereas, what you have to do is just write through and then go back once you've got a first draft and work on the language, work on the clarity. But I do find that very easy to get stuck and be like, well, my tone is not spooky enough in this or something, and keep not being able to move forward because I think it doesn't sound right. And with the secret project, if no one's going to read it, you just talk, don't you? You just go for it.
You do. You just tell. I honestly think you just tell the story, and whatever way the story goes, you just follow it, because there's no external pressures on you.
Yeah. I think it's it's really nice to have that, and to be able to maybe say things that you don't say in your fiction that's going out into the world, and just get a better feel for your own voice where there's no pressure on it. I think that's a great idea to have.
I've got I think I've spoken about it before. I've got a rom-com secret project, which is so completely opposite to what I write.
I love that. I love that. You're like, a serial killer by day, but in the evenings it's all lovey-dovey.
Oh God, but I wrote it and then I left it because obviously the crime writing career. as
Yeah,
soon
life
as
happens.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, like life happened. And then I picked it up again. I was like, oh, I like this. I like this story. I like this world. Let's see what we can do with it. But it's nice having that different side of me, because I think as a person, you are not just one thing. You like so many different things.
Exactly. And that's something I find, really hard, that, people try and stick you in a genre. And it's not to say I don't like that genre, but they always kind of try and pigeonhole you into things. And with what I write, it's particularly tricky because I kind of, the nature of the Gothic is that you kind of don't really belong anywhere. You're kind of nebulous. And, I've been sent to history writing festivals. I've been sent to crime writing festivals. I've been sent to horror festivals, and I don't really fit properly into any of these little places. Yeah. It's a weird feeling.
Well, it's interesting because I always say is that, especially to new writers, is that you need to know, and it's important to know where you would place yourself on the shelf. But I suppose it's tricky thing to do. You're saying you're not even sure yourself where you could place Gothic.
No, Gothic just needs its whole own thing. But I mean, the fact that it doesn't fit in is, in its nature, very Gothic. It's quite funny.
But I think you could easily. It's like a subgenre of a thing, though, isn't it? So it could be a subgenre of literature, a subgenre of crime.
This is it. I feel like Gothic horror, but a friend and I think we both wrote Gothic, and we were invited to a crime writing festival to talk about it because, there was some kind of crime element in the book. And someone in the audience actually asking questions said, "Why are you here? You're not crime writers."
Oh, God, I can't even lie.
There was thanks.
I know. Thank God I never said this, because there was someone I had to, this for a panel that I was moderating. I was reading the book, and obviously it was a crime festival, and I'm reading the book and I'm thinking, this isn't crime. I couldn't see the crime. I could see, I think there'd been an arrest. I can't remember if there'd been an arrest in it. So something criminal had taken, arguably you could say something criminal had taken place, but it wasn't what I would call a crime book.
Yeah.
But I didn't say to them, why are you here?
No, exactly. You wouldn't, because you're a nice person. You wouldn't be like...
I did think it. I won't lie. I did think it. I was thinking, I don't understand why this book is here. But
again, as a writer, though, you understand that they didn't pitch themselves for that festival.
No,
they didn't make the pitch. They're just going where they're told to go.
But also, do you think maybe it's whether it's, I don't know who it would be, marketing or publishing, looking at what would be the best genre in order to guarantee some kind of success of this book, even though it may not necessarily fit in the traditional definition of crime or romance?
Quite possibly, yes. I think you do have people just sort of trying to link you in somewhere, because obviously that's what isn't it, in marketing? You know the genres, and when you're sort of floating around separately, it's a bit more difficult. But then, having said that, as awkward as I found some of these situations, I think there's a lot to be said for being a sort of cross-genre, between genre, because you get to pick up different readers from all different genres, and you get a more sort of varied reader base, and that can be fun when you're interacting with readers.
Yeah, and I think as well, what's happening especially over the last few years, I think there's more books being written that are mixed genres. So you'll find they're a bit speculative fiction, they're a bit crime, they're a bit, you said, bit Gothic, might be a bit romance. There's a lot of that, and I think that's a good thing.
It is, yeah, it really is. I think it's great because, again, it encourages people to read outside their comfort zones and to realise, that they can read these other genres. I'm a big horror fan, as we were talking about, and it's very confusing for me because, I have some people that mainly read historical, and they come to my books and they're like, oh my goodness, they're so dark, this is so scary. But then as a horror fan, to me and to, a lot of hardened horror readers, they're sort of like, well, this is very, very mild. This is kind of like, the lemon and lime Nando's version of horror.
I love that. We're using the Nando's scale of heat to describe the level of horror.
So what I've tried to see myself as now is kind of like a horror ambassador. I'm like, am I a horror writer? Maybe not, but I try and, sneak as many horror elements into books that perhaps where you wouldn't expect to find them, and teach people that they do like horror. They just don't realise it yet.
But you know what? I think the Nando's scale of horror is a good thing, because when I think about, like kids' book, like the whole Goosebumps and the point horror books that you read as kids, it's horror.
Yeah,
It's just different levels of horror until you get to a point where you're watching The Exorcist.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Or The Conjuring. I love The Conjuring. But yeah, you need
I love The Conjuring.
Have you seen the latest one yet?
I haven't got anyone to go to the cinema with to see it, and I think I'm too much of a wimp to go on my own, so I might wait till I can rent it from the comfort of my own home.
It's so good. Before I go on to talk about, well, not me talk about it, you ask you questions about House of Splinters. What has your writing journey and your publishing journey, what has that taught you about yourself?
I think actually it's a really difficult journey, personally for me, because I think I always thought that I was kind of shy because I wasn't in the right place. And, once I was a full-time author, I'd be with my people and I'd have a lot more confidence. And once I had a book deal and a big agent, I'd feel that I was, good enough, and I'd have a lot more confidence. And, obviously there's so many things in these life, the situations you get there and you're like, oh, I'm still exactly the same person.
Yeah.
I feel exactly the same. I'm still struggling to go out and talk about this. I still don't feel that I'm measuring up to the bar. So I feel that the publishing journey has taught me that about myself, that actually, I need to do the work on myself, not have this external validation. It doesn't fix anything. But also, I think it's taught me that actually I have a lot of resilience. And I'm an incredibly patient person, because I was thinking about the patience and the adaptability that's required of being a full-time writer. When I mention things to people who are not writers that I've sort of experienced in the industry, they are livid. They are like, oh, I wouldn't let anyone treat me like that, or I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't put up with this. And I'm like, well, this is the standard, for the agency. This is just how this is for the can't even think what I'm saying now, for the industry, not the agency, the industry. Yeah. This is just how it is. And so many people have said things like, oh, I wouldn't like editors changing my books. Why don't you? You just realize like actually that a lot of people are a lot less sort of tolerant to change and adaptability and patience. When you look at everything that you sort of go through, and you think, actually, yeah, I'm quite a chill person, really.
Yeah. I mean, I always hate to say, you need to have a thick skin. So I don't think anyone should have a thick skin for anything. No. But you do need to have a certain level of, I suppose, thick skin to deal with the industry, to deal with, because if you were, could it be quite easy for an editor's remarks or comments or what some reviewer said to feel like a personal attack on you?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, with reviewers, sometimes it is a personal attack. Sometimes they will come for you personally. That's.
I don't know. I found, right, it's me going on my little rant. I found that when reviewers are doing that, especially the ones that suddenly pop up on Goodreads, it's not because it's not about you.
No, it's really a lot more about them, doesn't it?
Because they're doing it to make a name for themselves and to increase their follower numbers.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. I think, and sometimes you see these like nasty takedowns and you're like, actually, that's not the kind of person that I'd want to impress anyway. So I don't really care that they dislike me. But, and also, sometimes you look at reviews and you think, wow, this person must be in a pretty dark place. They can't just read a book they dislike and move on. But yeah, you do need to be ready for like those kind of people. And I think that's something that I never expected. I always expected there would be people that didn't like my book, but I never expected that there were people that would really, really hate my book and hate me for writing that book. That was a bit of a shock.
I had someone, it was so stupid that I just rolled my eyes and thought, I can't be arsed with this. And it's with the first book, the one I self-published. And their issue was that it was so stupid in regards to the Black Asian characters, that I didn't give like a detailed description of their complexion. or basically say that, well, I'm just saying they were the colour of a frothy cappuccino. Like that was their issue. And I read it and I was like, are you serious? Like, I just thought, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
It was interesting and ridiculous. And I just thought, I'm moving swiftly on.
Exactly. You soon learn, don't you, to edit the feedback, and you're like, this is actually helpful, and this is nonsense. And sometimes you do get people that they just haven't understood your book, and that can be a difficult one, because there's no way you can go back and explain it to them. You need to just not read reviews, basically.
No, that is the way to go. Even though my favourite review did just simply say boring. And I thought the reason why I found it so funny was because the book hadn't even been released yet. So someone had just gone onto Goodreads, seen that this book was coming out, hadn't read it. There's no previews. It wasn't even on NetGalley. It was nowhere.
It looked boring.
I just thought it didn't even have a cover, Laura. They just and they just said boring. And I just thought it was funny.
Okay. Yeah, it's a mad world out there. I think that's the thing, and you just have to, I concentrate on doing a draft that my agent likes, and then my editor likes, and I'm like, that's all the people that I can really please.
I think those are my two hurdles. I'm like, does my editor like it? And he's like, yeah, good, keep going. And I'm like, yes. And when I send that first draft to my editor and she comes back, I'm like, I don't care what the editor letter says, as long as that first sentence is, I love it. I'm like, that's it. That's all I need to know. I will go with your comments. I'll work through this, but you're not telling me this is rubbish. You're not taking it.
As long as you're not setting fire to your desk, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right, Laura, would you like to tell the listeners of the conversation about your new book, House of Splinters? And I always feel I need to apologise. I feel like I'm doing the elevator pitch.
No, it is tricky, and as a writer yourself, that kind of one of the worst questions you can ask an author is, what is your book about? Because they don't know. But yes, my pitch. I do wait for other people to tell me what my books are about.
Yeah.
House of Splinters is a gothic haunted house novel. It's a prequel to my best-selling Silent Companions. It follows Belinda, who moves into a haunted house with her children. She starts to discover dark secrets about her husband's family, and she's trying to protect her children from the legacy of her own past and the darkness in this house. So it's a spooky season read. It's got some nice pacing. It's got some little scares. It's a bit of a family drama, and it's set in 1775.
Okay, so I always ask two follow-on questions from when I forced you to do your elevator pitch. But I always ask, did you face any challenges in writing your book? But what I wanted to ask you instead was, because this was a prequel, did you find it, I don't know if easy is the right word, but was it straightforward to write?
You would think, wouldn't you? That's what I'd hoped. That when I pitched it, I was like, this is going to be an ace. I can just go through and do this. But actually, I put a lot of pressure on myself, because I was kind of worried that there would be people that would be like, this book has ruined the Silent Companions for me.
Oh, wow.
I kind of had that in my head, that they'd be like, I didn't like this book and it's made me stop liking a book I enjoyed. I had all these negative voices in my head, which, were ridiculous. But I put a lot more pressure on myself. I had to make sure I was following my own mythology, and go back over my old book, to make sure everything tied up, everything was right, the locations I'm describing tied up as well. But it was nice in a way that it did feel familiar. And at those times of doubt, I was like, do you know what, although I'm hitting a lot of different notes in this book, I have technically written a book like this before. So there was that kind of comfort in it. I think as well, because the Silent Companions have never really left my mind, they've kind of lived rent-free there for all these years. I had a lot of things that I was eager to get in, that I thought, I wish I'd included that in the first novel. I wish I'd had this creepy bit. So yeah, it was both easier and harder at the same time than writing a whole new novel. And again, with the characters, it doesn't really share any characters except the kind of the big bad in the house. So again, I had to, come up with new characters, get to know them. The only thing I didn't need to get to know as much, I guess, was the setting.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I thought about it. Like, I've spoken to my agent and my editor. I think I've mentioned it to my editor about doing a prequel to my book, The Jigsaw Man. And the only reason why, well, it was two things. One was just I was struggling to come up with an idea for another book. So I thought, I'll do a prequel.
I'll do that. Yeah.
I'll be full honesty. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to write about. I'll do a prequel. And then the other side of it was that I had so many readers who read The Jigsaw Man, like they loved the character, the Peter Olivier, one of the serial killers. And I'm like, they want him back. And I thought, this is a good way to bring him back. But then it's that challenge of, well, I have to create a story that work, even though I know, like, I genuinely know what happens, but I still need to build this whole story.
Yeah, it's a whole novel. Yeah, it's not the greatest hits. Yeah,
no, it's not the greatest hits. And also, I love that it's not the greatest hits, but also I need to now think of these characters, like these characters who have been established for so long now in 4 books, that who they were. Maybe, I don't know, like I'm saying 10 years ago, just for example.
No, but
who they were and what they were going. Yeah, that is hard.
You have to rewind their arcs. Ooh, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, so maybe that's why I haven't done it yet, but I think I probably will do it. But it was that laziness. Like, I don't know. It's so pretty cool.
I know there is that lazy element, like you say. You feel familiar and you think, it'd be easier. But I think for me, I had a lot of people. I still have a lot of people saying they want a sequel to The Silent Companions. I had a lot of that, and I loved writing The Silent Companions. I loved them as a thing, but I didn't want to do a sequel, mainly because, spoiler alert if you haven't read The Silent Companions, but the house burns down at the end. And I kind of liked the ambiguity about the character Elsie in that. I liked where I'd left the story on this classic horror ending. I didn't want to do a sequel. I thought, I just don't want to touch that. I don't want to ruin it. Whereas when people were pressing me for, more Silent Companions, I thought, well, I've set up this house that has this history of being, haunted from the 1600s. So I can do a prequel, I can get a previous family in there and I can work with that and do some different angles. So that's how it all came about for me. In the book is for the readers. I've dedicated it to the readers of The Silent Companions, because they changed my life, and it is for them. But that's not to say that you can't read it if you've never read The Silent Companions. I've tried to make sure that everything that goes on in the house does make sense, and you can pick it up on its own.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of a prequel, isn't it?
It is the beauty of a prequel.
It's the beginning of everything. So they don't need to pick up anything that came after. Right, so your question after talking about the House of Splinters. If you could spend an afternoon with any of your characters, whom would you choose and why?
So from the book?
Yeah, from
the book. Oh, that's interesting. So I think one of my favourite characters, and she gets a lot of love in it, is the lady's maid called Sawyer in this. She's just a really nice person. Like, she's lived, she's been treated pretty badly in her life. She's, not been given her dues, but she's still a very loyal person. She likes drawing. She's got a good sense of humour. I think I'd just like to take her out somewhere, like just show her a nice time. We go on a girls' day out and let her actually have some fun, because she's had a pretty hard life. Never really being in the spotlight. I'd like to, take her on a personal shopping tour,
Oh, bless her.
Pamper her for a day. Yeah, that's what I'd do.
You know what? I think it's become one of my favourite questions to ask, because I say very rarely is the answer is one of the main characters. It's always someone on the periphery.
Yeah, I love a side character. And I think as well, you spend so much time with your main characters when you're writing the book, that when someone says, who would you spend some more time with? You're like, well, been there, done that with the main character. Is there someone else I can hang out with?
It's I always say, whenever I think about this question for myself, every week, like, it changes. And I just remembered, like, there's a character, he hasn't even made an appearance in the book, but the head of the unit, DCI and Palacia, or Palacio, whatever you want to pronounce his name, he's got a brother, and he only I wrote a chapter, but I never made it into any of his book, The Brother Dante. And I'm like, I want to go out with Dante. Not out, but
It's
just
a good name,
like,
strong name.
yeah, it's a good, strong name. But I want to go out with Dante because I'm like, he will tell you everything you want to know
He's
about
got
his
good
brother.
gossip.
Yeah, he's got good gossip and good inside information. I just think it'll be a fun night, and he'll pay for everything. I already know that about him. He's just
And
generous.
let's
And
be
just
honest, you're not going to take one of your serial killers out, are you?
oh God,
that's...
no.
I mean, it could be an interesting day, but
Be
not
interesting night, but I don't know if I'll be writing about it
traumatizing.
at the end of it. All right, Laura, your final questions. Are you, I think I already know this though, but are you an introvert or extrovert or a hybrid of the two?
Yeah, so I think I'm definitely an introvert. I'm definitely an introvert, but I do have some extroverted qualities, and I do enjoy parties and fun. But I just think I'm very self inward looking. I need to be
Yeah.
brought out of my shell a little bit. But I think most writers are. That's probably why they start writing in the first place. But like we were saying, you have to be a bit of an extrovert, especially these days, to be an author and talking to readers and stuff. So working on that, trying to balance the two.
We're getting there. Okay, so what challenge or experience, good or bad, in your life shaped you the most?
I mean, I guess as a writer, I was ill a lot as a teenager. I had a really bad eating disorder. So I think a lot of the darkness in my novels mainly comes from, these mental health struggles that I've had. But also because I was off school a lot, I was reading a lot. I was missing a lot of lessons, and I sort of said to myself, I want to educate myself in a way, but not being at school. And I didn't, back in the day, we didn't have as much access to the internet. I had a dial-up modem. I don't even know if Wikipedia existed, I don't even know. So educating myself was me going down the library and getting a load of the classics and just reading that. So I was like, I'm going to educate myself in classical literature. That's what I'm going to do while I've got all this time that I can't be in school. And, that's had a huge impact upon my writing. The classics have still been the biggest impact on me of any genre. And I think it comes through them. I've sort of developed a love of history, a love of all these things. So yeah, I think that experience, dark as it was, has kind of formed my literary output.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, it's always fun to explain to, I'm saying like Gen Z or Gen Alpha, explain to them how back in the day when the internet first came out, you couldn't call someone on the house phone when the internet was on. And if you picked up the phone, you would hear the noise, and I'd have to shout, "Get off the internet!" But you could use the landline.
Yeah, you had to ask. It was like, can I use the phone for an hour so that I can go on this website? And you would need an hour for that website just to load, probably.
I remember, you're so off topic. I remember that they released the Lord of the Rings trailer, and you could go online and download the Lord. I say,
wow, yeah, I wouldn't attempt that.
Look, I remember we started the download at probably about 4:30, and about 11 o'clock at night, we could watch this 2-minute trailer.
You could have watched the whole movie.
That's how long it took. So Laura, if you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
So I'm wondering if I would go back to 25. This is mainly when I was writing like my Georgian Queens and stuff like that, and say, try writing a ghost story. I guess I would go and say that, but as we were talking about with timing and luck, if I had written one then, maybe it wouldn't have, had the success. I'm very much one of those people that I sort of say I wouldn't really do anything different in my life. I don't really have any huge regrets. So, maybe I'll just give some encouraging words to my 25-year-old self and be like, yeah, you will get published. You can do it. Keep going.
I would say invest in Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah. See, that's so much more practical, isn't it?
So, Laura, what is your non-writing tip for writers? I always say to drink water, go for a walk.
Yeah, go for a walk, definitely. A daily walk has been a real lifesaver for me. Gosh, life tips. I mean, don't feel qualified. I think what I was saying was before is about, just trying to cultivate things in yourself like patience and flexibility, and to maybe focus maybe on those things to have in your life, so that you've got this kind of writing mindset. Maybe don't stress too much about your adverbs, which people seem to be doing, and your passive voice, and just, you know, get some writerly qualities in your personality, and I think they'll take you further.
Okay. And finally, where can listeners of the conversation find you online?
So yeah, I've got a newsletter. I've got a website, laurapurcell.com, and there's a Substack newsletter that's free that you can sign up through on that. I am on Instagram. That's and a little bit on Blue Sky, but I'm really trying to avoid social media as much as possible these days, because for obvious reasons.
God, it can. I always say, you know what? You just need, if you can find the fun in social media, you can have fun. If you maybe
absolutely.
Just on Instagram.
I think I'm just a bit jaded by the whole thing. I think I'm just jaded because I think
it can be a lot.
I really built up Twitter when I was, I really built that up. And then as soon as Elon Musk took over, I was like, I'm out. So I left a massive following behind there. And, you can build up again. And I started to build up on Instagram. But you do just know that, something will happen and they'll be like, no, this is the new platform that you need to build up on, and that. And yeah, I'm just tired.
I think, and I think, and I loved Twitter. I'm talking pre-Musk takeover. I loved Twitter. It was the first like app I would open up in the morning. Even when they say don't pick up your phone in the morning, it's like, oh, let me go and look on Twitter. And because there was engagement there, you knew that people were engaging with you. And so it's sad. I'm not on Twitter or X anymore. Like, I just deleted my.
I refuse to call it that. I will never call it that.
Yeah, pulling a face. It'll always be Twitter. I deleted myself. I thought, you know what? I'm not holding on to it. I don't care.
No,
people will say, well,
you've got to move on.
Yeah, you have to. People say you don't want anyone to use your identity. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, as a whole, I think Instagram is a bit more friendlier. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But yeah, my main updates will be in the newsletter. We'll see. Watch this space.
Watch this space. Well, it just leaves me to say, Laura Purcell, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for all your patience with my technical difficulties.
That's okay.